Hello, fellow humans. Welcome to the highlight series where we pay our respects to the EU hopium that found its grave this weekend, and specifically to the players of G2 who performed pretty admirably in this series against BLG and managed to pull off quite a few nice plays, but in the end it just wasn't quite enough. And yeah, so I just wanted to dedicate a video to seeing what G2 did well this series, what they could have done better maybe, and then ideally also learn some things from it, right? So let's start right off by noticing that both teams actually bring back Twisted Tree Line a bit. If you check out the menu app, then you will see that both teams take their roam timers into mid lane, both from jungle and support, and then G2 actually get the upper hand here, managing to find a kill into Jun by coordinating their builds a bit better. You can see Mickey was waiting behind the wall here, which is always nice to do as Taric, because it enables you to respond to the enemy engage, which is what that champion wants to do. And then yeah, you're just able to chase a bit further. Mickey trades some flash here with Jun, which is fine. And then you might think that the 3v3 shenaniganry is now over, but in fact, Yike will in a second find himself getting assaulted by a big scary scorpion, where BLG managed to re-coordinate with Knight, who has just TP'd back in, and find a return kill onto Yike, and then go for some more shenanigans afterwards in mid lane, trying to find some more fights with the now freshly refreshed in resources Knight. And yeah, they do manage to pull Caps' flash here in a second. As you can see, Shoutout on once again, engaging on investing his flash. Caps forced to flash out. And the other thing that really happens after that, as you can see, Zyke is making his way up to the top side here, about to punish a fiery Yordle, and in that sense G2 respond to the Scorpion assault in the mid lane with a Crocodile assault in the side lane as they secure themselves another nice kill right onto Bin. And so for our next play, I want to look at this Bifanko sequence here, where you can see G2 is still fine in the game, just about even, behind a little bit of gold, behind some Grubs, ahead of Drake, you know, just standard old game state. And second Grubs are about to spawn, as you can see in top left, and G2 really want to play for it, as you can see by their map movement here. And so they escort Caps into top lane, so that he can contest this wave in peace, which is nice, right? You can do that, that's completely reasonable. They rotate back to mid in an attempt to contest the mid wave. But then afterwards they make a slight inaccuracy in that play, which is they rotate down to bot lane to protect the dive onto Broken Blade, which BLG might be planning as a cross map, right? If you're playing for Grubs, then you have to expect that enemy team might try something on the other side of the map. However, they don't really follow through with the move, and they don't get any vision for Broken Blade to play around. And now also they have given up control of topside, control of Grubs, which means two things actually. Firstly, they are losing a wave and plates in top lane to Rumble, Bin's Rumble. And secondly, they are not instantly on Grubs and not able to contest this immediately. So Jun actually gets to sneak one Grub and go up to 4 Grubs for his team, which is a pretty big deal, right? Because 4 Grubs is the threshold that gets you to that one extra spawn, which you can now see BLG using here to crack down on the tower. And then in the aftermath of that, Caps only manages to get a few plates back, effectively netting G2 with a slightly negative trade, which is why they are now down 2k gold, as you can see. I do not despair. After that, G2 find a better play. You can see here both teams vying for some control in the river, as teams tend to want to play for, and On gets a little bit impatient here. He sees Mickey stepping forward quite a bit and is about to fire off his engage here in a second. And as we discussed previously already, Taric, very, very strong champion if getting engaged on also whiffs his flash Q here, which is a pretty big deal on Railway. But once engage comes out, Cosmic Radiance able to just protect the Taric, and then G2 find a nice engage here, pick off On. And then BLG could just say here, okay, there's enough, unlucky, bad engage, just stop it. But what they say instead is, well, let's commit, let's TP a Knight, and then G2 respond in kind. And the ensuing fight just turns out to favor G2 a little bit. I want to highlight one interesting mechanical thing here, which is you can see Knight is now kind of in trouble, right? He's about to get stunned up, and then he has to use his flash to get out here, right? And so he could flash out here, but he actually flashes out towards this direction, which then results in Broken Blade actually getting the second E off, and then that allows him to actually contest Elk and just dash flash into his face and murder him, which leads to G2 deciding this fight at least somewhat in their favor. On the next play here, we can see that G2 are making a standard rotation towards the bot tower. So far so good. Both Caps and Broken Blade on good timers to be able to hit this. But then the iffy part for G2 comes afterwards when Caps wants to defend the top tier one, and so decides to TP up there and wants to clear the wave and defend this. But actually, if you look at the map, then you will see that his entire team is not yet on the map to back him up, so this actually ends up being a bit premature, especially if you look at Hans's build at this point. Then you will see he's briefly before his 2 item spike, and so he really wants to get through his reset here. And then now Hans would be really ready to fight, but the problem is by the time he gets back on the map, Caps is already dead, and so G2 just force a bit of an overambitious play here, which they get punished for, not just in the death of Caps, but also as they try to overcommit to defend the tower some more. And from this spot, they claw their way back again into the game and find a nice fight into the mid lane from this disadvantageous position. As you can see, they just decide to realm warp in here pretty aggressively. And then Yike gets engaged immediately, but that's exactly what G2's comp want, right? Yike is not that high a priority target, so it's completely alright for him to get engaged. Now, I want you to pay attention to how G2 now played this fight. You see they have a Cosmic Radiance to work with now, so that's when they go in. They dish out the damage, then now watch as Knight's own Cosmic Radiance descends. G2 go back out. They kite, they wait for it to resolve, and then stall with CC, and now they're able to chase back again. And this way G2 win themselves a really nicely played fight, which was also, by the way, perfectly timed on Elk's cleanse, which was just about to come up, but not quite, so this is really the only timer G2 have to go for this kind of play. And at the end of all of this, G2 managed to not only equalize the gold lead and even push it slightly to their advantage, but also catch themselves a Drake in the process. And the, well, more or less almost last downfall of G2 presents itself right after this play, when G2 are like, hey, Jun is still dead, Elk is still dead, let's try to play for this Nash. And I think they could have gone through with this if every one of G2 just decides to completely hit the Nash all the way until the end now. But if you look at what G2 does now, then you will see that some of them are turning. Mickey is still on the Nash. BB is like up here and doing something, I don't know what. And I think if they had all just hit the Nash here, then they might have been able to take it and get out with some losses. But now they just decide to turn and end up getting cleaned up by Knight Silas, whose champion obviously excels in situations like this. And based off all of this, you can see the unhappy G2 fan's face, who's, well, realizing what is evident, that after this fight, BLG will be able to take the Nash of their own and then convert this into a nice lead, which brings us to the last play of this ordeal, which, if you've seen the game, then you definitely remember this part. So BLG are now with a solid 5k gold lead, but G2 is still not completely out of the game. As you can see, Rise on 3 items here, so man has definitely scaled up and is ready to fight. And to G2's credit, the ensuing fight, they play beautifully. Like you can see, Honor's going in now, and Mickey is instantly with his button on the Cosmic Radiance again. Pops it right here. And then G2 just turn on, completely one-shot him. Afterwards, they re-coordinate, go back together. And then BLG is like, okay, guys, we just lost our support, so we really gotta go in now and pull trigger while cooldowns are still down. And G2 just clump together and kite back very nicely. Get first the kill on Jun, and then quite a lot of damage on both Bin and Knight. And now you would think, well, it's 4v2 at this point, right? How can lose? Well, turns out Elk has something to say about that. This man just hates losing, and yeah, as one likes to say, the league speaks for itself. As we watch Elk just finish 1 kill, 2 kills onto Yike. And then after this, the, well, somewhat demoralizing pause champ coming in. Yeah, after this, all that really happens is off of these kills by Elk, BLG managed to secure themselves a Nash in just a second, because as you can see, Jun's timer is quite a bit shorter than Yike's, so he can be there at the Nash and smite quite a bit before. So BLG secured themselves the Nash here. And then with the Nash, they are able to just push down bot lane, go for one last push to end the game. And then BB attempts a nice TP flank here once BLG arrive in the bot lane, but turns out that he is just a tad bit too deep and gets chunked out here, and without too many options to really play this fight now, BLG just force it down and zone G2 out with a very nicely placed equalizer, and this way put an end to Europe's hopes at this world. But yeah, in my opinion, still quite a nice game by G2, just not nice enough to put down the 1v9 machine that is Elk in this game. And yeah, I hope you learned something. If you did like the video, then please show that by pressing it under the video and subscribing. And yeah, I will see you in the next one.